Good morning. Welcome to Abundant Life Homestead. Every morning, at least weekday mornings, from the time that my wife leaves for work and the kids head to school until the time that I get Grandma's breakfast ready, is my morning quiet time. And normally this gives me about an hour and a half or so of time to myself. And Monday through Thursday, anyway, I've taken to going live on YouTube and sharing at least the last half hour to 40 minutes of that quiet time with you. A large part of that, we do a Bible study, kind of a impromptu study. We take a fresh or a new look at Scripture that we take from what our church calls Connections Bible Study, and it's the main scriptures of the week in the Revised Common Lectionary that is used by churches and denominations and preachers around the world. Today is Thursday, March the 13th, 2025. Hope everyone is well this morning. We're all doing really well. Although you'll notice I'm kind of hacking and my nose is running, and it's not a sickness. I walked outside this morning, watched the moon set and the sun rise, and the moment I walked outside, my eyes started burning, my nose started running. Got this cough. It's the extreme weather change. Last week we were still getting freezing temperatures. We had a dusting of snow on the ground. Yesterday it was 70 degrees. Today it's supposed to hit 80 degrees. So with that kind of extreme change, it's bringing pollen from somewhere in the world and dropping it here. So, some pollen that we've either not used to anymore or have never experienced. But so if you hear me sniffling, coughing, see me rubbing my eyes more than I usually do, it's an early allergy season, and I've already hit the histamines and the allergy medicines this morning, because this one seems particularly rough. But we will get through it. We'll be just fine. May take my eyes an extra second to focus on things with them running and itching so much, but that's okay. So on Thursday we read a wisdom passage. And normally, most of the time, the wisdom passage is a psalm. Not always, but today it is a psalm. And today's passage, this week's wisdom passage, is Psalm 27. And it doesn't give us verse numbers, so it means we're reading the whole thing. I've not looked ahead at it, so this could be a long read or it could be a short read. Get the Bible app open here. Psalms 27. 14 verses anyway. Okay, in the Amplified Bible, Psalm 27 is titled A Psalm of Fearless Trust in God, and it is a Psalm of David. Give me just a second before I start here. I'm gonna see if Melinda is going to get online with us this morning. I'll talk a little bit between now and then, just because I don't want her to miss much of it if she has time to get on. Now, yesterday she didn't have time to get on with us at all. But that's okay. She has a job to do too. But we used to do this together. And instead of having the off-the-cuff study, we would study ahead of time. We'd make all our notes, then we would sit down. We would pre-record a Bible study together, and then upload it. And That was great. It worked out well, but it took up so much time for preparation, filming, editing, uploading, getting everything ready. And now with her going to work in the mornings and me going live in the mornings, we can't always have her with us. But yeah, she's not reading her messages yet, so there's a good chance she's really busy at work. Oh, no, there she is. Good morning, Melinda. I was just about to give up on you and start reading this psalm. But I didn't want to start it if you were getting on, because I didn't want you to miss part of it and jump in on half. Scrolling through this, it's going to be a fairly long read. Okay, Psalm 27 in the Amplified Bible. It is titled A Psalm of Fearless Trust in God, and it is a psalm of David. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the refuge and fortress of my life. Whom shall I dread? When the wicked came against me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they stumbled and fell. Though an army encamp against me, my heart will not fear. Though war rise against me, even in this I am confident. The one thing I have asked of the Lord, and that I will seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord, in his presence, all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty, the delightful lovingness, and majestic grandeur of the Lord, and to meditate in his temple. For in the day of trouble he will hide me in his shelter. In the secret place of his tent he will hide me. He will lift me up on a rock. And now my head will be lifted up above my enemies around me. In his tent I will offer sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing, yes, I will sing praises to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious and compassionate to me and answer me. When you said, seek my face in prayer, require my presence as your greatest need, my heart said to you, your face, O Lord, I will seek on the authority of your word. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Do not abandon me nor leave me, O God of my salvation. Although my father and my mother have abandoned me, yet the Lord will take me up and adopt me as his child. Teach me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my enemies who lie in wait. Do not give me up to the will of my adversaries, for false witnesses have come against me. They breathe out violence. I would have despaired had I not believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for and confidently expect the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait for and confidently expect the Lord. So yeah, it's quite a long read with this one this morning. And this, as the title, as the Amplified titled it, A Fearless Trust in God. Let's flip through a couple different translations real quick. I like, especially when we read a psalm, I like to see what the what other translations will title the psalm as. New Revised Standard says it's a triumphant song of confidence. Not getting a title in very many of these on this one. That's okay. Let's go back to the Amplified. If you haven't watched this very many times, it's one. The Amplified is my go-to, my default translation. Melinda says, wait for and expect is what jumps out to me. Yes, while I was reading this, I getting down here to the end, I think you can sum up the entirety of this psalm in the last two verses. I would have despaired had I not believed that I would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And wait for and confidently expect the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Yes, wait for and confidently expect the Lord. And we often talk about this wait upon the Lord. When we see it in Scripture, it doesn't mean there's a lot implied in waiting on the Lord. It's not what we as modern humans think of waiting, where we just sit in a waiting room and we're just doing nothing, waiting for something to happen. When you wait upon the Lord, you're actively seeking the Lord, but there's also this understanding of silence in there. You're listening to God, listening for that still voice, listening for those sacred echoes. Waiting upon the Lord is very much an action, not just sitting there in a chair hoping something good happens to you. So actively seek and wait on the Lord and confidently expect Him. When you have this faith that David has through his experience and all these troubles that have come against him, you gain that confidence. But even Melinda says, I think of it as preparing your heart as well. Yes, and I usually include some your heart in some of that silence, because if you're letting your heart just tell you all these things, and you're letting your mind just tell you all these things, your soul has a very hard time focusing on God. So you've got to get all three, heart, mind, and soul, down to prepared, listening for God, and ready to take Him in. Ready to see what He has planned. Ready to understand what He has for you in His Word. It's very much is an action, something you actively do, waiting on the Lord. But we jump back up here in the beginning of it. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the refuge and fortress of my life, whom shall I dread? And we've talked a lot about this similar situation. We've talked a lot the last few weeks about the Lord being our refuge. Last week we read Psalm 91, and Psalm 91 isn't credited to an author, but found out in the after the morning study, getting into the deeper study, that most scholars believe that Moses wrote Psalm 91, and it starts off with the Lord being your refuge, and taking up shelter in the Lord, as if you're sheltering behind a solid rock. Very, very much the same with what David is going through here, is seeing the Lord as your refuge, as your fortress. Very much what Abram went through with the Lord as his shield, we talked about yesterday. And Melinda, how are your sinuses and allergies and stuff this morning? I was explaining before you got on that the moment I walked outside, my eyes started burning. My nose has been running all morning. I've got this tickle in my throat. I think we've got some pollen from somewhere in the world we're not used to right now. Verse 2, when the wicked come against me to eat up my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they stumbled and fell. I think that's a direct reference to David and Goliath. If I remember right, and I don't have a reference in front of me, in the story of David and Goliath, one of the ways that Goliath was taunting David was he said that he was going to feed his flesh to the birds of the air. And of course, we know that didn't happen, and it was Goliath who stumbled and fell. So David's giving a direct reference to where his realization of God as his strength, as his fortress, as his refuge, where it really began was when he faced off with Goliath. Yeah, your sinuses and stuff are not pleasant this morning. Yeah, mine. I normally don't get affected this bad. This is something. Melinda says, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but the Passion Translation titles this psalm as Fearless Faith. No, I didn't actually look for the title in the Passion Translation. I went through a few of them here real quick, but my Bible app puts the Passion Translation pretty far down the list. So as I'm scrolling through and hitting just a few of them, I don't often make it down there to the Passion. I'm assuming you read through the psalm in the Passion Translation. If you do that and you find out something that really jumps out at you, give me a reference to grab it, and I'll read it. I'll read it on here. So he begins by referencing back to his original first enemy, his original first victory, major victory in God, but that was just the beginning. Throughout his life, the wicked was coming against David. There were armies coming in against David. He it wasn't all sitting in a temple enjoying life. It was there was a lot coming against David, and he learned very quickly and to confidently wait and trust in the Lord. And the Lord saw him through it. Talks about the armies and the war rising against him. And one thing I have asked of the Lord, that I will seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord, in his presence all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty, the delightful lovingness and majestic grandeur of the Lord, and to meditate in his temple. This is one, I think, if we try to imitate David in this, at least we should, and we hope we can. Oftentimes when we're asking of the Lord, when we are seeking the Lord, oftentimes it's when we're already in trouble and we're looking to him to get us out. And so we're always asking God for help, asking God to save us, asking God to shield us, asking God to heal us. And David here, even though he's praising the Lord for pulling him out of all this stuff, the one thing that comes to mind is him that what I ask of you, God, is that I will dwell in your presence all of my life. He doesn't say, the one thing I ask is that you will always keep me safe. The one thing I ask is that I'll have this perfect and easy life. No, it's that I will be with you. Melinda says, verse 10 has a note that is interesting. Okay, I'll jump up, see if we need to talk anything between here and 10. But yes, instead of his seeking the Lord for something for himself, although being in the Lord's presence, that is, I guess, asking for himself to enjoy time in the Lord's presence. But instead of asking for safety, for healing, for this, his focus is to be in the presence of the Lord, to know that the Lord will get him through all this stuff that's going to come and going to happen anyway. In the day of trouble, he will hide me in his shelter. In his secret place of his tent, he will hide me. He will lift me up on a rock. This kind of goes back a little bit to what we were saying that Moses was talking about in last week's psalm, and that we touched on several times in the last 2 or 3 weeks. My head lifted up above my enemies around me. In his tent I will offer sacrifices with shouts of joy. I will sing praises to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud. Be gracious and compassionate to answer me. When you said, seek my face in prayer, require my presence as your greatest need, my heart said to you, your face, O Lord, I will seek. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away from me, away in anger. You have been my help. Do not abandon me nor leave me, O God of my salvation. So Melinda's given us hints for the Passion Translation here in 10. Let's go into verse 10. My father and mother abandoned me, but you, Yahweh, took me in and made me yours. Verse 10, the Passion Translation note says, every child needs 4 things: acceptance, focused attention, guidance, and protected. All 4 of these emotional needs are met by God in verses 7 through 14. See also Isaiah 40:11 and Romans 8:15 through 16. Isaiah 40:11 sounds familiar. We can look that up real quick, but I think that is, we'll make that a side note to look up here in a second. I think that's basically where God says the Messiah is going to come as the light and the strength even to the Gentiles, maybe. And Melinda says there's also a wonderful translation of 14. So in the Passion Translation, verse 14, the ending of this psalm, here is what I've learned through it all. Don't give up. Don't be impatient. Be entwined as one with the Lord. Be brave and courageous and never lose hope. Yes, keep on waiting, for he will never disappoint you. Yeah, that is very good, because it instead of repeating the waiting twice here with the Passion, they basically give you, kind of what the waiting is, not just sitting there. It's not giving up, but also not being impatient, stilling your heart, stilling your mind, listening, waiting on the Lord, but persevering on. Be entwined as one with the Lord. Be brave and courageous and never lose hope. There's also a note here. I don't know if you read it. Oh, okay. The note shows that he had repeated wait on the Lord twice in there, even though they didn't. Where did we say we were going to look? Isaiah 40:11, was it? I could be way off on here. That just really sounded familiar, like something I had. Is that where we were looking? Now I'm lost. Hang on. I've completely lost myself here. Let me go back to the Passion Translation and where are we at? Psalm. What are we in today? Psalm 27. Sorry, I just kind of brain farted today. Let me let's go here. Amplified. No. Yeah, I was way off with Isaiah 40:11, wasn't I? I know it's in Isaiah, but what I was thinking of that would kind of tie into this is when the basically the part of the prophecy of the coming Messiah was that he would be the light and strength even to the Gentiles. But Isaiah 40:11, he will protect his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arm. He will carry them in his bosom. He will gently and carefully lead those nursing their young. So along the you took me in and made me yours. And she says Isaiah 40:11 and Romans 8:15 through 16. Okay. So that was 40:11, Isaiah 40:11. Let's look at Romans 8:15 through 16. Where are we at here? Romans 8:15. Romans 8:15 and 16, according to Melinda here. For you have not received a spirit of slavery leading again to fear of God's judgment, but you have received the spirit of adoption as sons, the spirit producing sonship, by which we joyfully cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself testifies and confirms together with our spirit, assuring us that we believers are children of God. Yes, and God, God the Father, God always treats us as if we're children. He always shows us the love of children. In David's case, though, there is this little bit of literalness to saying that my father and mother have abandoned me. Although they didn't really abandon him, I believe he sent his father and mother away to protect them and into another land. I don't remember. It's written. It's in one of the Old Testament stories. It's probably somewhere in 1 Samuel. But he sent his father and mother away to another land to protect them through the days of their lives. So even though they didn't necessarily abandon him, his father and mother were out of the picture, and the Lord takes him up, adopts him as his child, as he does with each and every one of us, even if we do have our father and mother physically with us and in our lives. Okay, anything else stand out to you in this, Melinda? I always forget when I'm using my Bible app, when I make it parallel, I should keep the one that we're on the right hand side, because when I take it back out of parallel, whatever's on the right is what goes to full screen, and I do it every time. I lose the scripture we were just on. Psalm 27. Okay. Melinda says, we can also think of how his father behaved when he was speaking of him. Oh, yes. Especially when leading up to the events with Goliath. I mean, David's father talked very lowly of him, just because he was the little shepherd boy. He wasn't the strong warrior. Nobody would want him there. There's nothing he could do. His father had basically already given up on him. I mean, if you push him out into the field to be a shepherd, it was at the time, as a necessary job, but considered one of the lowliest of the positions. It's what you do. Where you push the people who are basically otherwise worthless to society, and very much the reason why the angels came to the shepherds, and the shepherds came to Bethlehem in the birth of Jesus Christ, to show that even the lowliest were not abandoned by God. And Melinda says, David wasn't even considered for king. He was a second thought or lesser choice. He wasn't even considered. So yes, very much, even though I guess I hadn't thought about that when I was mentioning that he had sent his family, his parents off to keep them safe, even though he had done that to take care of them. Yeah, his father had very much given up on him very early in life. there's anything else that stands out at you, Melinda, you can feel free to jump in at any moment. From here, I've got about 10 minutes left before it'll be time to get Grandma. So as far as the rest of the day goes, I don't have much going on. I do think I got to run into town, go to the bank. If not today, I got to go tomorrow. Also got to go to the tool store sometime soon. But as far as homestead goes, the videos I'm working on for the homestead, things are still trucking along. I did have to make a turn off in a complete different direction this week. I had almost forgotten there's a big job to do that can only be done for a couple of weeks in the spring, and that is to go collect trees along the margins of the cornfield. I've only got really from the time that the ground thaws out till the time that the farmers start working, and usually they start working by spraying the field before they fertilize or plant it. So I've usually only got 2 or 3 weeks that I can get those fresh young seedlings and saplings of these trees, and so I spent the last 2 days collecting 12 small cedar trees. Got some of that on video. I'm not sure how much of a good video that'll make. It'll get boring real quick watching me dig 12 little tiny trees out of the ground. And these are mostly small. I mean, they're smaller than my hand as far as from tip to ground. But I think we're going to take those and put those at Fran's house. But now that I've got those out of the ground, I'll be getting back onto the tractors for a couple of days. I've got to get hydraulic cylinder changed out, hopefully today. And we've got some rain coming, but next week I'll be able to get some ground torn up, because I've got a different and kind of big planting job I want to do this year too. So lots of stuff going on with the homestead, but then also stuff with family and stuff with closing down the shop and stuff with Grandma, and it's getting pulled in all directions. That's why I really enjoy having that morning hour and a half or so that I get to myself. That's the only time where I can wait on the Lord, as in the quiet your heart, quiet your soul, listening part. That once everybody's left for the morning, that's generally where I get my prayer time. And during the summer, when I don't always get that time because the boys are home, oftentimes at sunrise or before, at sunrise or right after, you'll find me out in my woods sitting there. That's where I go to talk to God when I don't get quiet time in the house. But once that early morning time passes, the rest of the days are quite chaotic. Melinda hasn't jumped in with anything extra today, and we probably covered just about everything, at least what all popped out at me this week in this psalm. And one thing we do that we don't have on video, one part of our Connections Bible study that our church does is, tomorrow, when we don't have the video, sit down. If you followed through the week, sit down and review all the scriptures from the week, and then see how they connect together. It's one of the great things with this study. Not only do I try to see how it connects to my life each day, and after I've studied a passage, I'll take situations that I end up in from there, and and be able to say, oh, Moses talked about this. Jesus, from what he was saying, I can kind of feel that in this situation. Or, Paul showed us this 2,000 years ago, and we're seeing it today. So you not only make those connections to your life, but you also see how the gospel, the New Testament, the Old Testament, the wisdom passages all can interconnect together. And most weeks, some weeks, it's just very, very obvious connection between the passages you're reading that week, and some weeks you have to sit down and really study on it. But just about any point in time, you can take that gospel passage, that New Testament passage, that Old Testament passage, that wisdom passage, and find a connection between all of them together. And that's really why it is called Connections Bible Study. We just about hit the 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. I've got about 3 minutes, it looks like. See if we got any last things to close it out for the week. Drinking a pretty good coffee this morning. I've already showed it before. It's one that Melinda picked up in Puerto Rico for me. It's now I took my daggone glasses off. Aroma de Cafe Aroma de Cafe Adjuntas con el aroma del Café de las Montanas. So the aroma of the mountains, I guess. It's just a regular unflavored coffee that Melinda picked me up in Puerto Rico. Trying to only have about a pot of it a week. Okay, so with Melinda's closing out words, I also noticed a few similarities between this and Psalm 23. Yes, and you've probably still got yours open. Is Psalm 23 is that one that was written by David? Yeah. And it's we won't sit here and read the whole thing, but it is at least in the Amplified, it's titled the Lord, the psalmist shepherd, and this is a Psalm of David. So it very much with what we talk about here in Psalm 27, with the Lord being our refuge, our strength, not having anything to fear, we because the Lord is our shepherd. The sheep seem kind of dumb at times, but I guess so do humans. But as long as they have, the shepherd or even a good herd dog, they tend to live a little more fearlessly. And that was the 9 o'clock tick. So 9 o'clock comes around, and one of the things I need to do is to take care of Grandma's breakfast. Melinda says one of my favorite songs right now is Still Waters, Psalm 23. You have to play that for me tonight. I'm not familiar with it. But if you're not familiar with what we do here, one of my big job, the thing that I do with my life is taking care of family old folks, specifically Grandma, because she's now the only one we have left. And one thing Grandma wants, likes, desires is that this normalcy of, if she is awake, she wants me to start making her breakfast at 9 o'clock every morning. So 9 o'clock becomes that critical point. When the clock ticks 9, it is time for me to go. And if she's awake, I will get her started for the morning. So appreciate y'all watching today and following along this week. We'll be back Monday morning, bright and early, 8:20 Eastern Standard Time, with our Connections Bible Study. And so until next week, keep on nourishing your dreams, cultivating your passions, embracing the beauty of God's creation. Hope you have a wonderful day, have a blessed weekend, and we will see you Monday morning. Have a good one.